Okay, my outstanding friends, it's finally started. I have been criticizing NASA for not seeing what's right in front of their face, and the European Space Agency, all of them, and even Fermilab and all of them, because they just cannot deal with something that is new to them. Now, this is the scar that's on Mars. And I said this was from the impact of Venus, which it was. And this was recorded in every culture on Earth. And Velikovsky did the research on this, and he found out that they all had basically the same story, a giant impact of what they called a fiery comet, but it ended up being Venus, and it almost hit us, causing our global flood, and then impacted with Mars. And this was all recorded in our recent past, not that long ago. When I say not that long ago, several thousand years, but not much more than that. No, this is a crater that goes right across there, and this is Mars, and it destroyed Mars, and the cause of this was Venus, which is right here. This is all electrical scars. This is from electrical discharge. You see this? If you showed this to a welder, he'd say, oh yeah, that's all kind of... And that's what happened. It hit and just swept right across Mars, right here, and caused this. And I believe the impact site was probably here coming this way. And it just... and wiped the atmosphere off, and this terrible, terrible gouge. That is wider than the United States. Now, NASA just did a video to discount my video showing that this is truly an impact, just as Velikovsky recorded. And they put out one saying, oh, no, that's not right. This is just erosion. Where did I show you their video? And it never shows you the true picture. It comes right down in here and says, oh, this is a little eroded spot. There's an eroded spot. It's absolutely unbelievable. But that's what they're doing. And that follows on the heels of NASA calling me, all this guy does is pareidolia. He sees all the things that aren't there, and then they show a picture of a bear or something, which it looked like a bear. but I never claimed it was a bear. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I show the things that are real, and those things they don't want to talk about. Oh, those things, we don't talk about those. We're going to call you a guy that has pareidolia. And they're hitting me from every side now. And Fermilab, same thing. They call me a tinfoil hat guy. Well, now it's all come to fruition. They can't hide anymore. So let's see what I can show to prove my point. And then I'll show, wait till you see what they're saying about this. Absolutely amazing. But that's what we got. All right, so here's my claim. That the impact from Venus into Mars wiped its atmosphere gone, so it does not have any condensation, therefore no rain to speak of, and no water erosion. There is a sandblast erosion, yes. It is the red planet, yes. And all that stuff is biology. That redness is eroded biology. Now, what are we looking at here? All right, so don't forget, remember this, very, 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 very important. This is just like Earth. It's the same biology as Earth, and Earth is just nothing but a biological mess. And Mars is the same. I'm going to show you. This is the Mars crab. And you say, well, oh, a crab. No, it's not a crab. It is literally an artery, and these are the blood vessels that go away from that artery to service the muscle tissue. Now, it's down here. You see it? That's it right there. All right, and close up it looks like this. This is the vein, brings the blood back up. This is the artery, pushes the blood down in. Now these are what they call sarcomeres. You see these blocks here and the little stripes and this way and that way, and it's the same thing. These are the pinchers that are the muscle. This eroded red stuff is nothing more than clay, basically. There's no moisture to it to speak of, a little bit, but not enough to where it's clay and it's a packed sort of clay. It's a dusty clay. That's why you see dust devils and so forth on Mars. They've seen them regularly. Now, this is just the eroded fleshy stuff, and it leaves the connective tissue, because that doesn't erode. The connective tissue is tough. It doesn't erode like the bloody, wet stuff that dried out and just sort of dusted off. These are sarcomeres. Let me show you what a sarcomere looks like. Remember the block, and remember all the slabs going that way, and remember it's being fed by the blood. See, I said sarcomeres? This is them right there. These are pinched together sarcomeres, and these are relaxed ones. But all of the slabs in here are connective tissue, but in between them is the gooey stuff that makes it pull. That stuff eroded out, and all we're left with is these blocks like this, and all the little tiny flakes that are connective tissues. All right, so one more time, there it is. That's the artery that serviced these muscle tissues. Now, I have muscle here in my shop that I can show you. It didn't erode like this because on Earth there's enough moisture that this will not dry out like that and just dust off. This has been probably 3,500 years ago. This is what Velikovsky records, 3,500 years ago approximately. This impact occurred, and that's when all this stuff happened. Totally wiped out Mars. So what have we seen so far? We've seen the impact all the way as wide as the United States. We've seen the Mars crab, which was seen in 2014, I think 2015, with the Curiosity mission, and they just looked at it and then they said, oh no, let's not talk about that. And this is the sarcomeres, which I just showed you, and this is what the sarcomeres look like, and there they are. When they're bloody, they're like this. And then when they erode, and we get down to the little bitty piece, you're down into here, just like I showed you before. And that's exactly what we see on Mars. So now, what else can I show you? I said I had muscle here in my shop, and it had blood in it, and here it is right here. This is the muscle in my shop. Now, let's take a good long look at this, because it's very illustrative of how muscles petrified in the mud fossil way. Look at this. You see the pinkness here? What you have to do is look at the little details. There's no pink in here. Why is that? And what's this all about? What's that little crease there? And why is this pink? And what is this, all this red up here? And what is this? Like, look, a tube. It looks like something leaking out and leaking out. And this, what's going on there? Why is this cavity here? Why is this tube here? And it's a tube. And then what about here? You see down the end how these things break? And what's this little... Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Can you see that stuff? You see the details? I look at it from the end too, and I can see these are like little bundles. And these are the connective tissues, and the red is the sarcomere stuff. This is that really is just exactly like the Mars crab, only it's just eroded away right here. And it's feeding all the blood into this area to service the muscle. Now, why is this not red like this? Why? Explain that to me. Well, I can explain it to you. This is tendon. From here to here. Right to this line right here. This is the glue that glues it into the bone. I'll show you the other shot, which is shown with the bone and everything. But right here, the bone gives you a little piece of just a little bit of springiness. It doesn't have any blood to speak of. It doesn't need it. It's just a stretchy, really tough rubber band. And then it makes an abrupt transition and starts to go into the sarcomeres. They start here. That's why it's pink right to here. Now, look at this structure here, this round, major piece that comes through here. That's the center of the tendon. That locks it in. That's still, because you see you've got slabs here, all of these different layers. That allows you to twist and move and do all that stuff instead of having just one big rubber band. The same thing with this. But this is the main attachment. So you could twist a little way, this way and that way. But this is where it really holds everything together. That's the major implantation. And I will show you this in another thing that is going to knock your socks off. All we'll be seeing is something like this right here. in the gigantic one that's here on Earth. But remember, this is tendon, very, very tough compared to this, and very, very tough compared to the bone. So let's see this in a different shot, where we can actually see the bone and see how everything goes together. All right, now check this out. This is the same as this. It's the same thing. The bone you can't see in this shot. I had to highlight it so you could see how the tendon, the muscle bundles break off, the abrupt transitions. Now, this highlighted it so you could see this little ball right here is right here. All right, you got to get it in the right light to see it correctly. But that ball is right there, and it's right here, and that's what anchors this tendon in. Remember, I think I showed you can move the tendon a little bit this way and that way because there's little slabs between, so they can slide a little bit. Otherwise, you'd be just stiff. You couldn't move. And sometimes people can't move because these things, they do stiffen up. All right? You got to be flexible. That stuff has got to be gooey. And they call it leucine-rich, small leucine-rich proteins, which is the little flappy, gooey stuff that makes you be able to, be flexible. Now, so this is tendon, no blood, lots of blood. And there it is, anchored right there. This is the seam that connects this whatever it was. It looks like a shoulder joint or something. It connects it to the tendon that connects it to the muscle, and that's as a machine, works as a machine. You see how perfectly round that is? And it looks to me like it has some kind of an attachment over to here. Now, I'm not sure, maybe a doctor or something would know. Maybe this is on the outside of the bone and the bone was on that side, because I can see some tendon stuff. You see that? That's tendon. And this is some kind of an attachment here. And this is obviously an attachment here that runs to this abrupt transition where the muscle starts. And this right here, we're going to see in the ocean. From here to here in the ocean. This is eroded and that's eroded. That's all you see. And they got it pegged as being millions and millions of years old. You see this? Remember I told you, look at that round ball right here? This is one side where the bone would have gone to there. This is that main attachment place, and the muscle started right here, the abrupt transition. All right? Now, all these layers allow your tendon to do just a little bit of this, but there's not a whole lot of red stuff in here. It's almost all connective tissue. And that gives you a hell of a lot of strength between the bone and the muscle, just enough to give it this flexibility. It's an absolutely stunning engineering feat, really. But that is that circle that I showed you to look at before. And don't forget, it's easiest to see in this one. There's the circle, and this is where that white strap comes out, just like any other one. All right, so I'm just going to go over it again. The Mars crab feeds the sarcomeres because it's an artery. The sarcomeres are the muscle tissue. It's exactly like I showed you here in my sample right here, where the blood feeds the muscle tissue. That is the tendon I just showed you. This is also tendon, and it is not millions of years old. All right, they claim this is millions of years in one picture. No, it's not. The guy died and that's it. These creatures were absolutely stunningly enormous. And they're in space as well. This is what freaks them out. They cannot accept the reality of the situation we are in. Mountains here on Earth, that is muscle. That's the connective tissue, and the red stuff is the muscly, red, gooey stuff running out. You see it in the blood running out. This is a guy's van over here. This is pretty good sized stuff. Now, and here, you want to see some more on Earth? You want to see something really freak out? Where do you see this? This right here are the Moki marbles. All right, what are Moki marbles? Those are tendon emplacements of the interstitium. I'll show you in a second. And these are too. These are the same as these. And this mud has run off from the red bodily tissue, and that is skin or mucosa, fascia, whatever. But underneath is the vital tissue is here, which has got a lot of red gooey stuff, and it runs off. And the balls that were in here are hard as hell, and they end up being here. And the same thing here. This was just a thinner layer of skin. This is pretty big. full grown, as they'd say. Now, here's these balls. You see the balls? They're right here. In between these balls is this red gooey stuff, which is here, and this fluid-filled bags, which is all running out and turned into mud. That's what it has turned into, this mud here. All right, so this was the body of a gigantic creature, and so was all this here. Over here, though, it all ran out into probably fresh water. Here is the ocean, it appears to me. I'm almost certain of that. And, well, I am certain of it. And this is eroding away, and then there's different types of biology that lives on these. They still have a lot of nutrients in them. That's why they're growing these, they call them stromatolites, and cyanobacteria or something grow on them. And that's fine. I have no problem with that. But some of them, like these, there's nothing going to grow on that. That's just nothing but metal balls. And they're almost metal. You know, they're very, very hard. And anyway, that's what that is. And these are up on Mars too, because these are the Mars blueberries. You see them? These are exactly identical to the Moki marbles. No difference whatsoever. And this is the basement layer of skin. The upper layer of skin was here. All that little interstitium balls and the fluid-filled stuff all is gone. And all that's left is the Mars blueberries. All right, same thing I'm showing you here as the Moki marbles. Identical, no difference whatsoever. 0 difference. And they went to Mars. Don't you know? Everybody, oh, they never even went to Mars. Yes, they did. And the reason I know that for a fact is this right here. This is the Mars Morse code. You say, oh, Roger, big deal. How do you know that makes it for certain? Well, here's why it's for certain, my good friend. This is interstitium. All right, you remember the interstitium? Don't forget your interstitium. Which is, where's my interstitium? All right, here it is right here. That's what this is. That's what's laying flat like this on what they call the Morse code, the Mars Morse code. You're going to see balls and you're going to see straps. Some of them be stretched and some of them will be pinched together. That's how skin works. And here is the stretched and pinched back together ones. Here it is right here. They're pinched here and they're stretched here. Pinched and stretched. Now these were so stretched down here that the balls stayed because they're tough as hell, but the straps are not as tough and they erode from the sandblasting. And here's how I can tell you that I know for a fact this is Mars and not Earth, because you can't do this on Earth. There's moisture. There's going to be moisture everywhere there is, sooner or later. And when it does, it creates erosion patterns in here which do not exist here. They do not. This is sandblasted. This is nothing but dusted off, basically. So this could not happen on Earth. So don't tell me this is on Earth. Now, this is interstitium. Pinched, pinched, stretched, stretched. And that leaves the tendon balls. And those are the Moki marbles and the Mars blueberries, which I showed you, the Mars blueberries and Moki marbles. I showed you the tendon strap. I showed you all the muscle and stuff I have here in my shop. Sarcomeres, Mars crab, collision site. This here, I don't know what this is to be perfectly honest, but I can tell you what, it's biology. These patterns don't form for nothing. I don't know what it is. I'd like to figure it out, but there's something strange going on with that. Anyway, there's a lot to look at here, but they claim I am the one that has pareidolia. They can't see what's in front of their face. If you can deny what you're seeing, I want to know why. Plus, my stuff is DNA tested and CAT scan and everything else. My giant human beings, I have a fingertip 3 feet long. That's not CAT scan, but it's DNA tested, and it was DNA human. And everything they talked about was 3,500 years ago. Velikovsky recorded. Every culture on Earth had the same story, and it was about this impact of Venus into our atmosphere, causing absolute catastrophe, and then hitting Mars. It's not something that was hidden in history. It's just been ignored. And he was suppressed so badly, they took his book off the bookshelves after being number one on the bestseller list, on the New York Times bestseller list, number one, 11 weeks in a row. They forced the publisher to take it off the bookshelves because he invaded their territory. And he was an academic too. He was no fool. He was a very good friend of Einstein's. And Einstein revered him. But nobody could talk. Once they make their mind up and they're going to crush you, you are crushed. Now, I sent this to all the agencies as well, and I say this is why the things in space are not understood and mostly unexplained. This is about Bennu, which they just took a sample of, and I've been reporting about it. I call it blood found in meteorites. So what's the truth about space debris? Is it biological or not? I'm showing it's biological, and I'm showing that this is a hip joint, it appears to be, and it's boiling off from the vein, the artery, and then the little blood vessels as well. As it hits a certain orientation to the sun, it cooks off. That's what gases off. It's not just some dust or something. That is gassing off of biological fluids. All right, and that is you got to come up and look at this stuff, and they have to pay attention to this. I know they are watching this, and no question, because I'm sending it to them, and I've been, I've had responses, and they've been very negative, but very few, and then they just stop instantaneously. One time, and that's it. See you later, pal. You're an idiot. Basically, that's it. And so now I'm waiting to hear about Bennu. I know exactly what it is, and I posted what it is, and I saw Bill Nelson, I think is his name, who was the director of NASA, coming out bragging about how great job they're doing. They can't even see what's in front of their faces. This is what annoys me. And until I can have a discussion with somebody that's making all these claims, I'm making claims, but I got claims to make. I got material evidence. Everything should be based on material evidence. Everything. Otherwise, it's just a guess. It's a theory. It's a whole bunch of people say, oh yeah, we have to agree on this. And then when they agree, that's it. You're done. There is no disagreeing anymore. See, check this out. This is Bennu, and I've been posting about this for a while now. This blood comes out of rocks everywhere, and that's nothing but a heart. And I show that compared to Psyche. You got to come up and look at this stuff. Now, I also go against NASA and all the, against Fermilab and all the rest of them about the atomic model. The atomic model is right here. The new atomic model is that right there. All right, there's photons, and they consist of two particles back to back, which are dipole electrons. I call it dipole electron flood theory. And that's all that exists, is those two little bitty particles. And you make them into a bigger and bigger and bigger ball, and you get to hydrogen, and then you get, goes up the line from there. They're just more and more and more zones of stability. That's all they are. But hydrogen itself is not one proton and an electron. It is approximately 1,824, 1,825 dipole electrons in a ball, and at that point it becomes stable. And I've shown this. This is exactly, the top part is what Fermilab shows, and this is exactly what I show. You see this? This is exactly what I'm showing, and the top one up here at the top is what Fermilab was looking for, see it? But they didn't see it like we could see it because we were using light. They were using protons and seeing all kind of debris. They see the particles, we see them attached together. A whole big difference. We see them exactly as they are in light. And light is the smallest elementary particle there is, except for a single electron. And half of light is an electron. Two electrons together become stable. One electron is not stable. It's heat or it's electricity. But two electrons together will bounce off of something and make light because they're the smallest stable unit. And then from there you hit at about 1824 or so would make up a stable neutron. And a proton is one less, so it's charged. All of this I presented. I'm not making any guesses here. I'm showing this, and I'm showing the evidence that supports it. All of the light research we did exactly shows the particles they're looking for. All right, so what is the latest? I am waiting for a response to my claims that this Psyche and this Bennu, you see they're almost identical. Can you see that? And they are hearts, and they are in space. You see them? They're basically identical, and that's a heart. And then I also show the comets are gassing off of their arteries and blood vessels. They're not just dust blowing off of there. That is a hip joint. And these are hearts. And all of the things that are in space and that are coming, even the meteorites that are hitting Earth, are from body parts. And I found them. I have them here in my shop. I have at least two of them that have blood still in them. And you can find them everywhere. If you look at the Willamette meteorite, it's a lung. It's virtually exactly like that. But it cooked off and smelted, and all the red blood turned into iron. So these are my claims. They can't hide from this forever. There's no way you can get it. And Bennu, they took the sample up there, and I'm going to tell you right now, I already made my announcement of exactly what it is, and I made my claims of exactly what it is. I forget where I did, but I think it might have been this one. But I've been doing this right along, saying when you get that stuff back here on Earth, here's what it's going to be. It's going to be blood, and it is. It may be a little cooked off because it's been exposed to heavy radiation. There's no atmosphere to protect it. But it will be virtually the same metals and so forth that are in blood. Transition metal dense. You see this? This is why things in space are not understood and mostly unexplained. They have no clue what they're seeing. This is why scientists do not understand comets or their tails. It's because it's blood boiling out of there. I did this one about evidence mounts of mythology was not all silly stories and appears to be rooted in truth, which it does. These are the things you have to confront, or you're just missing the boat, absolutely missing the boat. And for a real scientist just to turn around and walk away from this kind of evidence is not a true scientist. They're just not scientists. So, and they're spending our money like it's unbelievable. Bill Nelson got up there and he says, we just sent out $1 billion rocket off. To do what? I can tell you what this stuff is already. That's fine. You go up there and come back, spend a lot of money, employ a lot of people with our tax money. But I have not much to say about that. But if somebody will respond, and we can discuss these things and then proceed in a rational manner with all the evidence and not just an opinion, that would be, I would think, a good course of action. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, but again, I'm going to wait for the response they have to this, because I've been posting this all over, and you should spread this out and spread it around. This is a heart. These are hearts. They're loaded with blood. Blood turns into metals. That's just what it is. I show it very, very, very clearly, and I put a whole batch of these up. Here's another one. Blood formed in meteorites. So what is the blood was found in the meteorites? These are tendons. These are all blood vessels in rocks. That's a woman's bodily part that had petrified. And in there is a coffin birth. You should come up and look at all this stuff. Most of you probably have seen most of it because I have a strong core following now, but I'd like to get this spread out to where your teachers can discuss this and you can discuss it with your teachers. Right now, I know there's such a pushback against it that, I mean, I'm blocked really from just about everywhere. Anytime I post anything and anywhere, they just block me because they just don't like the sound of the things I'm saying. But what I'm saying is true. And as soon as it's never going to be not true. So you can stick around and hide from it forever, but it's going to be true forever. So people are going to look like they just didn't care about the truth. And that's exactly what they look like now, because there's no way to miss it. And I have not been quiet about this. And this goes on almost now 15 years. And I have, you know, really gone after almost all of them. I know they're responding now to my claims, but they're doing it in sort of an offhanded way to make me look like an idiot. Paradiolea, oh, this and that, oh, people see these things, and oh, here's what this really is. No. Let's discuss it. That's the only way to handle it. We have to have a discussion. I could present evidence. They have evidence, absolutely. I want to see their evidence, and I want to scrutinize it. Because I'm going to tell you what, Comet Bennu, there's no question whatsoever. That's a heart, and I can show all the architecture of that heart. And they were right there, you know, sitting on top of it. So they should have some pretty good pictures of it. And from those, I can make my determination. I already have, so it doesn't matter. It is a heart. There's no question about that. And now having the sample of it, it will be blood. That's what they have in hearts, is blood. Okay, my friends, we're going to be talking about asteroid Bennu and NASA and what they think about it, and then what I think about it. I have claims to make that I can support with material evidence, and I have things from space that are here in my shop right now that I will be showing you that make it conclusive. The things that they have found out there are biology. All right, as you saw in that other heart, there's tubes over here you can't see, but those are the little ones. These are the big ones. And this is the fleshy stuff that's around it. And then you get to that layer that is raised up. This has eroded away, burnt away, whatever, because it's very flappy. This is not. This is where you start to really get your heart working. That's tough, and that's why it didn't erode away. And you have that basically that wall that surrounds it. All right, that's the wall I'm talking about. That's the connective tissue. Underneath is that red fleshy area, which is what it is. And they took pictures of this, and they show right where they landed. It's nothing but a mass of blood. And my meteorite that I have here burnt off and is almost identical, where it shows the black and the red blood, and it's virtually the same. Now check this out. This is Psyche, and it's an iron metal meteorite. You can see it's metal, and they know it's metal, and they think it's worth billions and trillions of dollars because it's metal, and it probably is. But what I want you to look at is these cavities here, and I want you to look real close. You see that? And you see this over here? It's hard to see. Maybe that gives it a little better. Hold on. All right, you may be able to see it now, but you see this here? And you see this here? That's kind of interesting, don't you think? I thought it was. And you see this here? This whole area looks like it got hit by a big something, smashed it, and the same thing over here, except this has something strange right at the bottom. Why has that got that? And there's a whole batch of these. Let me show you what's in the heart. You see all that plumbing? I'd say that is plumbing. Watch this. You see that? That's what you were looking at on that heart. Those are hearts. Psyche and Bennu. And you see all these tubes? Bennu's got a tube sticking out the side, and it's got all this plumbing as well. And the same as Psyche. And they are metal because blood is literally metal. It's in a fluid solution, but it is basically almost all metals. Now, this is after all my claims. They're talking about people seeing the man in the moon and fantasy. Okay, well, maybe. See, this is, I'm here. Here at NASA, we often hear from people who think they see something familiar in an image from Mars or another planet or somewhere else in the cosmos. All of those things I presented to them. And it's true. Yes, it is true, NASA. They do see something familiar, yes. But it's actually because they're experiencing pareidolia, Roger. I don't think so, NASA. Okay, this is their explanation of all of this that gouge that goes right across Mars. And you can read this if you want. I'm sure you can read it from here. Hold on. But really what they're getting at is there's gouges in here up to 5,000 meters deep. And they're saying that's a testament to the tectonic forces and the volcanism and the grabens and the this and the that. Well, no. That's the testament to being plowed through by Venus. You see this? This just came out, and they're trying to discount my account of what caused this. They're showing these are electrical discharge scars, all this, and they never even show up ever from up high. Or everything here is right down next to the surface, and they're showing these and saying, oh, this was volcanism, this was tectonic, this and that, and this was whatever they call it. They can make up any names they want. And then they do. They just keep making up names for all this stuff. This was an electrical discharge gouge. And the best one you can see, and they never get any, it's always this close. These are electrical discharges. It's just like a welder's torch. You see it? Look at it. That's what it does. And this is the European Space Agency, so they're trying to discount my stuff too. Okay, so do I say that NASA is after me? Yes. They're saying that they often hear from people who think they see something familiar in an image from Mars or another planet or somewhere else in the cosmos, and it is true. Yes, it is. They do see something familiar, but it's actually because they're experiencing pareidolia, which means that you're seeing something really is not there. You're seeing clouds that look like dragons or something. No, what I show you is scientifically fact. I may be experiencing paranoia because of these attacks like this and the one from European Space Agency. Every time I post something now, they're coming back with something else, which is good. This is what I want. I want engagement, but I'd like to talk to them, not just post these silly things to talk about pareidolia. Well, I'm going to show you what I found. This is where they got problems, not me.